going to turn it over to Larissa, who is a member of our coordinating committee for at the coalition, and she also works with Reinvestment Partners and is a tireless advocate for housing and other social needs. I think in our community, a great community organizer. And are you here, Larissa?
I am here. Thank you so much. That was very kind. I'm so grateful to the people who follow me, who are the real neighborhood organizers in this moment, who are making change in the way that Durham works with neighborhoods to make development equitable. And so I really don't want to take any more time. I want to just introduce BrandonWilliams, who is a leader in the Walltown community working on the Northgate Mall redevelopment committee, as I understand it. And please let us know how we can be more involved in this work. As I understand it, you're reaching out to other neighborhoods and organizations. So I appreciate you being here. And I also just want to let folks know that Vanessa Evans and Constance Wright are here representing Braggtown, and they will follow BrandonWilliams. So you have about, I think, 15 minutes. So please, Brandon, take the mic.
Sure. Thank you, Larissa. And thank you all for opportunity to share. BrandonWilliams, resident of the Walltown neighborhood. And yes, our committee, Northgate Mall Committee of the Association, has been working for the last almost 2 years. It'll come up this December on organizing around the redevelopment of the mall. As kind of many folks know, the mall has been purchased by a development group called Northwood Investors, which owns the majority of the property. Duke University also owns the Macy's there. And so those are the two primary property stakeholders that we've been engaging with. And our kind of hope from the beginning was to really try to figure out kind of what residents in the neighborhood wanted to see and not see on the mall property. And so we spent some time doing surveys, talked to folks in the neighborhood, also to shoppers and store owners at the mall last year. I got about over 250 surveys, kind of took those findings and then did some focus groups in the neighborhood to kind of validate some of that information. And we added some data around kind of the increase in property tax values, kind of median income, and kind of just really looking at the impact that the redevelopment was going to have on low income, longtime homeowners and residents in our neighborhood, and concerned that people would continue to be pushed out as this coalition has, advocated for property tax grants, assistance grants. Walltown, it was not included in the city's original property tax assistance program, and the county doesn't have one. So a lot of our longtime homeowners are really vulnerable in that way, and so we've been wanting to make sure that the community is driving, has an influence over kind of how the development happens and is protected, that wealth can be preserved and maintained in the process. We know the mall, the mall is at a close, and that property does need to be reimagined. But we want to make sure that that happens in a way that can benefit folks in our neighborhood and not merely kind of move them out. And so where we're at right now, at the end of April, many are aware that the mall closed. Northwood closed the mall, and kind of along with it, these last couple of months, they've been doing some community engagement. I believe that process has ended or is at least suspended. So we're at a point right now, though, that we're continuing to move forward. We kind of released the strategic vision that we shared with the community back in February. And I'd be happy, I can put it in the chat here, the link to our website where you can see that vision document and kind of see the timeline of kind of how we've been working. But we took that document and we shared it out, and we have connected with the other kind of adjacent Northgate Mall adjacent communities. So That was Northgate Park, Duke Park, Trinity Heights, Watts Hill and Dale, and Old West Durham. And we invited those communities to send some representatives to sit on what we're calling Northgate Mall Neighborhood Council. And so there are, we have reps from all those communities, about 13 of us in total, who have begun meeting to take on the next phase of kind of taking our vision and kind of visualizing that, kind of creating a site plan, mapping onto the property what we would like to see. And so we're just in the middle of that process right now. That council will meet again next week. We've kind of asked every neighborhood to go back to look at Walltown's initial strategic vision to see whether or not they could endorse, some of the points on there. Come back, we're going to have a discussion to kind of finalize a collective set of goals that we want to get out of the redevelopment process. And then we'll take those goals and we're going to have a design charrette that will help us to, again, kind of put those goals into kind of a visualized site plan. So the hope for that is that, by the end of September, early October, we'll be well on our way to have something that we can present to the city, to Northwood, to Duke, and they'll be invited along the way to participate in that process as resources to, we want to be in conversation with them. So they'll be invited, but that's where we're at right now. I would say, just in terms of, if you're residents in any of those neighborhoods, just to be engaged with your neighborhood associations who will, have information about how you can give voice and input and kind of offer updates. And then I think, we'll, as time comes closer, as we're trying to kind of push the vision, we will be calling on broader community in Durham to really support our efforts to have resident voice at the center of the process. So I'll stop there, and if there are questions or thoughts.
I'm eating so hard, so forgive me. Can you hear me, darling?
Yes.
I want to say I am so pleased to hear this conversation, because my concern is do not leave the community out, and I like the way you have made that inclusive, but don't be hoodwinked. Keep your eyes on it, stay focused, and I'm here at North Carolina State University. Becky knows that anything that we can do to help this process, please let us know. I'm going to send you something in the chat so you and I can talk directly, but you stay awoke, okay?
Thank you.
Good job. Well done. I love it.
And if you don't know that community voice, that's Rosa Anderson.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So as I understand it, you're reaching, Walltown's reaching out to other neighborhoods, putting neighborhood voices first, and then the broader community. Is there anything else that you would ask of us?
I mean, the continued support around, property taxes, that was part of our vision. And so, it made a lot of sense for us to align with the initiative you all were pushing at the county level. I know that didn't quite go the way we had hoped. But I think if we can continue to push there, there are things outside of the developer's control, for, the property tax piece in particular, that we want to also see come to light. So yeah, I think we'd like to be, at the table there and continuing to push for that. But no, I think at this point in time, it's just good to give an update, have folks aware, and that for us, one of the things we know for our process, so to let people aware of this, the initial leverage that residents had, or believe we had in the Northgate situation, is that the current zoning only allows for 50 feet of height at the mall. And so if Northwood wanted to have a kind of more dense higher density development, they would have had to apply for a text amendment, get that zoning changed, a process very similar to our friends in Braggtown who've been able to intervene in that process, right? And so we thought we may have that as a leverage. The impact of the pandemic, I think, has shifted the way the developers are talking about how they imagine the phases of development, and that they may do development that is under 50 feet, and so which would avoid the public process. And so in that scenario, really, I think, a PR campaign, just kind of neighborhoods coming together and really putting pressure on the council and the developer, to listen and engage with us will be the avenue that we choose. And so, a coalition like this that had that support in that kind of public conversation would be highly valued. So I'll say that as another request that as we go along, that may come to light.
We do have two questions. One is from Rachel Eberhard. What sort of effort has the developer shown on their end with their team of engagement consultants? Have they engaged meaningfully with the neighborhoods?
Yeah, so I think in some, I've been a part of some of the engagements. The process has stalled, and I think that there needs to be a little bit more communication in terms of kind of what has come of that. There's a report that was supposed to kind of come out based on kind of the surveys and community activities that they conducted. I don't believe that report has come out like publicly to folks, so just to kind of hear so that there's like transparent communication around kind of what they're taking into consideration and what people know, I think would be helpful. And I think, by the time, the other thing to say is by the time that Northwood began to engage the community, much of what, happened, like Walltown had already been driving those initiatives. And so I think it's just another piece to say that, like, the kind of work that developers are doing to be kind of as close to the ground in the community, right? A lot of neighborhoods already doing. And one thing we notice about this process is that, we really need kind of an intermediary for like the city county to kind of be the folks that bring people together, not the developer. I mean, there's just not a lot of incentive for them, and they don't have the tools and the know-how, the relationships to actually bring folks and engage community really well. So I think instead of them hiring a firm, like, the city county can have a process for these, particularly these larger development processes where they're bringing the developer, they're bringing the community associations and other stakeholders to the table, laying out all the relevant information and processes, that are being involved, so that folks really know what's at stake and what they can do to influence and impact the change. So.
Well, that's really important. I do have one other question. Terry Alba asks, is affordable housing emerging as a possibility for the mall redevelopment?
It's not something I can at this point say like with certainty. Obviously, we've had conversations and that, it's a consideration, but I wouldn't say we're at any kind of point where like there's concrete offerings on the table, but it's I think they know that that's obviously a hot button issue and like something that we want to see. What level for instance, our strategic vision requested 30% affordable housing there on the property. We haven't had any kind of concrete numbers response back to that in kind of details, but we're hoping to kind of flesh some of that out in this kind of charrette process, design process, so that we're coming to the table with some specifics that they can respond to.
Anyone else have a question or comment?
This is Constance Stansel. I have a comment. And with the City of Durham Neighborhood Improvement Services with the Community Engagement Team. And I want to commend Brandon and the Walltown community for the work that they've done. Like Brandon said, they've been working on this for 2 years, and we actually gave them a neighborhood matching grant to support their visioning effort. And he's absolutely right. This work has to take place at the neighborhood level. One of the things that we are doing with the community engagement team, and Brandon knows us, he knows Laura Biediger, who is our equity community engagement strategist, and James Davis is on this call, Linwood Best. We're all working to promote and encourage what we call the community rooted partners. We have in FY20, we funded two community rooted partners in Northeast Central Durham area, as well as the Fayetteville Street corridor. And we are working to establish other and financially support other community rooted partners in the city of Durham, because we believe it is people in the community who should engage people in the community and not outside consultants. The city spends, I guess, I don't know how many thousands of dollars bringing in outside consultants to engage our community. When they come in, when outside consultants come in, they actually contact people in the community to do their work for them. They write their reports, they get paid, and they're out of the community. They are not in the community anymore. And so we are saying that there has to be a paradigm shift, and that's what we're working on. So, and you can see just from the work that Brandon and the people in Walltown have done, that it can be done at the neighborhood level, and it's the most effective way to engage people in the community and get the results that the community wants in their communities. And so, again, I commend the work that they've done, and this is the way it has to be done in Durham in order for it to be equitable, fair, and get the results that we need in Durham.
Thank you, Constance. I appreciate that and the partnership that we've had with the city and helping to facilitate this process for us. And I'll say, just to clarify and be clear, like even the consultant that Northwood hired, these were local folks, that from Durham. I think, and part of my point even in that is that the incentive for Northwood to use those consultants in a way that's like really engaging the way that we might think as neighborhood associations just isn't, it's not there. It's not the same kind of, they're not trying to really understand kind of what the, impact of property taxes have been on folks, and, present the kind of data and information that that neighborhood associations will be able to kind of provide. And so that's why I think that intermediary piece of the city county planning, being able to say, let's consider all the facts on the table is important, because neighborhood associations can't do it on their own. It shouldn't be left to the associations to do it on their own either. But I think that to level the power dynamics between developers and neighborhoods, that there should be some intermediary role of the city and county.
I do have another question.
There's no commitment from Northwood. There's no commitment. Mm-mm.
So no commitment by the Northwood developers to wait on the charrette, or no timeline yet for their development plans?
No, and invitations are just underway. We haven't formally invited them to the charrette process yet. That's something that's just kind of been emerging. And so that'll come soon, and we'll see what their response is to it. But we've had no commitment from them on timeline or anything like that.
That's the end of your designated time, Brandon.
Awesome.
Any parting thoughts?
Thank you all so much. I appreciate the time. The questions have been great. And thank you all for really moving forward with these important issues. And I'm excited. I wish I could stay on longer. I need to hop off for another work meeting. But my sisters Vanessa and Constance, I'm just so excited for the work that's been happening. They've been doing in Braggtown as well. So glad you all get to hear about that and how you can continue to move that forward. Talk to you all later.
Yes, I just want to thank you, Brandon. Thank you all. And we have now Vanessa Evans and Constance Wright, and coming out of the most extraordinary Planning Commission meeting on August 11th. Watch it. Even if you know the conclusion, it was affordable housing and equitable development was front and center because of the folks in Braggtown brought it front and center. I am so grateful to have you here to speak with us. So please go ahead, Vanessa or Constance.
Afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Larissa. This has been an awesome process that we've gone through, but it's been a long one. We have been established as an association now for 4 years, and you have to understand that without this association, we would not be where we're at now. And there are a lot of other communities that are out here that are not where we're at, and we're hoping that each and every voice that was heard that night, that is a community who also got no votes, that they too will somehow come up with a way and a plan to start an association. Because without the association, it has more power and pull than just people going into a room and saying what they want. So it was because of the people in our community, our engagements that we had within the community within the last 4 years, having Constance as my vice chair, and being able to start something that was very important for us was a new developments team. And I think that's something else that every association in every community in Durham needs to have, because you got to have people in the space, in the place where all this development and all the rezoning, everything is going on. Because if people don't know what's going on, it's no way of really having a way of connecting the community, of knowing what's getting ready to happen around them, because they're not telling us. So if no one's telling nobody, before you know it, you'll have a $500,000 house or $1 million building sitting beside you, and the next thing you know, you're getting pushed out and you're trying to figure out how it happened. So one of the most important things is having community engagement, and that's within every community. As I was growing up, Durham to me was a beautiful place because there was so many different Black and brown communities as well as white communities. But now things are shifting where you don't see as many Black and brown communities, and a lot of Black and brown people being pushed out because of the developments, the power pools that they're having. And when a developer can have more power and say, then the community, something's not right in that picture, because if people have lived here for years, and for me, my family has been in this area for centuries. I can go back to 1811. My family is kind of like out of the Chatham and Granville area, but was meshed with Durham at the time. I am a descendant of slaves from both sides of my family. So it's a lot of people who are being affected by this, because I went to school with people who are descendants from the Stadville plantation. So we have to realize that in each space is unique. No matter what area Durham you came from, it's unique. And I think we should be able to hold on to some of that. And I don't want to take up all the time, because I do want Constance to speak. And I also have Celeste, which is on our development team, on the call. So I want them to be able to speak as well. I did want to say that, I'm trying to think what else I got on my paper. And as far as support from y'all, I think if we were getting support for us, like same things that Brandon was saying, we would need support still, as y'all are doing with affordable housing, the tax, properties of taxes going up in areas like in my area, taxes went up over 100%. So that's a strain on people who are making low wages or essential workers. If you're making $7, $8 an hour, there's no way in the world you're gonna be able to keep up with what's going on in Durham. And talking with DataWorks, really a person in Durham needs to be making between $25 and $35 an hour. And we're nowhere near that. So a lot of changes have got to take place. And I hope that we can find a way to help fight for better wages for all people, especially essential workers and people who are on low income. So I'm going to turn it over to Constance and let her speak a little bit. And then you can tag Celeste. Constance.
I think you need to unmute yourself.
Constance.
Okay.
Unmute yourself.
Going in and out. I don't have anything. Wait a minute. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, yeah, I'm Constance Wright, and like Vanessa say, you know, it's going to take the entire Durham community, everybody, not just Braggtown, in order to make these changes that are coming about in Durham. The 11th on the 11th, that was really a phenomenal feat that we pulled off. And I think what's been happening in Durham is a very few people have been making the decisions for the majority, not asking, just bring money in. And I think with developers, you know, they were just doing what they could do. They had the law on their side and really didn't even have communities to ask the residents what they wanted, what they needed. You know, they didn't ask, what is your income? You know, can you afford this increase in your property taxes? Can you, you know, live a comfortable life like everybody else wants to do, instead of having to work towards paying for something that you're not even getting any benefit out of? So with our development team and everything, that's when we, you know, pulled everything together. A lot of people in the community, thank you all, came to our support. You know, we had our petition out there and we're still getting signatures on the petition. And now people understand that the only way that you're gonna be able to get something is you got to do something. It's not easy because I like Billy, Celeste can probably tell you, you know, where do you start? You know, and then you hit all these roadblocks. I mean, you hit roadblocks and you bounce off and you gotta go over this way and they tell you to go that way and you can't do this and you can't do that. But the end result is keep pushing and it'll come. You know, keep pushing and you can get what you need and what you want. You know, the other part to that though is we got to have listening ears from our government officials. You know, if they don't hear what we're saying, you know, we can talk all day, all night, put evidence in front of them, put the data in front of them, everything. But if they don't hear what we are saying and sympathize with what we are saying, you know, that's mute too. So I'm saying all of that to say we need officials who, you know, elected officials who believe in community and not big, you know, big money. So with that, yeah, I will turn it over to Celeste and she can, you know, tell, you know, what her part of it. So this is for Celeste.
Thanks, Constance. I just put the link to our petition in the chat. So if folks haven't had a chance to sign it yet, you can go there, and that's a great way to stay up to date with what's going on and what we will you know, be asking for from the community. A little bit more about kind of the process that we've been through and where we're headed. You know, this is, I'll say, a unique development in the sense that it's very large. So it's about, area-wise, it's about 8% of Braggtown. But in terms of the amount of housing that would be adding to Braggtown, it's a little over 17%. So it's a huge change for Braggtown, and really important that this community, or these proposed developments, include housing that people in Braggtown could actually afford. And that's been something I've learned a lot about. The area median income for Braggtown, if we're looking at affordable housing, which would be 60% AMI, is around $19,000 a year for Braggtown. So when we think about what's affordable for folks in Braggtown, in order for these developments not to be separate and apart and really segregated from Braggtown, we have to do some serious work to make sure that that's going to happen. So that's something we focused on. And then I think, you know, there's a lot of fear around displacement. Even though the new developments are on forested land, which is, you know, has its own implications for environmental justice and, you know, heat-related illnesses and things like that. Displacement due to rising property taxes and just rising costs of rent, that's a real thing when you look at those AMIs again, but also, and again, thanks to DataWorks for all their help in us understanding this, but this idea of being displaced is not just like a generic fear, right? We've seen it kind of across Durham in different neighborhoods, but when you look at the tax increase that happened for everyone across the county, I think the average was in the, like, I want to say 26%, something like that, but the average for Braggtown was more than 50%, like 56%. So there's already a disproportionate increase in taxes. So that's already happening. And when you think about 900 new units being put in there, all at the 200K and above price point, you know, going significantly up, that's really the lowest for the apartments that they're planning. So that's going to have a huge impact. And I guess it's just had me reflecting on, you know, these moments in time in Durham, you know, during urban renewal and when 147 was built, like, what did it feel like for people to be making those choices in those moments? And I'm like, oh, that's now, right? We're making that choice again now to change this neighborhood forever, or to support it and continue to keep it really strong, and make sure that, you know, this neighborhood that was really built by hand up from folks who, you know, had nothing, were pushed out, you know, were enslaved, were pushed out, were not invested in, right? Braggtown doesn't have sidewalks, doesn't have enough bus stops, things like that. I just think it's so important to understand, like, we're in that moment now of choosing the right thing or continuing to disproportionately oppress and keep people out of, having a neighborhood that they can continue to call their own. But if anyone has any questions about the development or our process, our next step is City Council. So that's kind of where we're aiming, and we will be, you know, tapping y'all to, you know, join us potentially in speaking out. And so please do sign the petition, then you'll get to hear everything that's coming. Thanks.
Thank you. I have people wanting to speak. I think Wib Gully was first, and then Mimi Kessler, if you want to say something that you put into chat. And looks like Rosa put something into chat. So, and anyone else, put a note in chat, please. Wib, you're on.
Thank you, Larissa, and thank you for moderating the program. And I'm grateful for everyone, Vanessa, Constance, Celeste, and Brandon for speaking. And Celeste, I love your point there at the end about this is the moment. We have to realize that when the point I was going to make is this: the coalition is nonpartisan, and we welcome everybody from all persuasions. And so my comments are not meant to be that, but it's also, I think, real important that people have the information they need to try to understand why we're in the situation we're in. It's been a long story about folks in Durham and neighborhoods and community, and at a community level and a council level, trying to have development that helps us, not that runs over us. It's not a new story, and it's been a struggle. And one of the real problems is, and I'm sure the neighborhood folks who are working on this know, is there's not a lot of tools, really legal tools or ways that neighborhoods have to have leverage with developers and to say, yeah, okay, you want to do development, here's some of the things you're going to have to do that are community benefits that are going to help our neighborhood. Well, we don't have a lot of leverage. The problem with that is the North Carolina General Assembly, the state legislature, and the current majority in the state legislature has resisted giving communities and neighborhoods those tools. That is the flat out truth, and it's been that way for decades since I was over there. And it will be a fight to get those tools, but other states in this country have given communities the chance to say, no, some of the housing has to be affordable or you can't do this. And there also have to be other community benefits. And so, just to be frank, there's a Republican majority in the state House and the state Senate. That needs to change if we're going to have neighborhoods in Durham and across the state to have real tools and leverage to be able to work with developers to make sure that development works for us, not just for the few and the wealthy. I just wanted to make that point, Larissa, as part of the overall perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see. Mimi, did you want to speak?
Yeah, yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. A couple of points that I want to reinforce. One is that the law is not on our side with this, and that's why what Wib said about changing our representation on the state level to get some of the state regulations about development changed is really essential. The other thing is that having a petition is good, but what seems to really get the decision makers' attention is emails. If we literally flood them with emails they have a better chance of paying attention. And I have been asked at various different points in this fight to provide an email that people can send. And I've been advised by people on the Planning Commission that my emails are too long and too detailed. And you know, usually I don't think that it's a bad thing to be very thorough, but apparently in this situation it is, because if they have hundreds of emails to read, they're going to read the first paragraph and then move on. So, so it really makes a difference to send these people emails. And I think that what was so remarkable about the Planning Commission's meeting last week was how difficult every single one of those projects and so forth were, which is why I wrote a letter to the editor of the NNO, because it was just remarkable what they did. They pushed back on a developer who had actually negotiated with a neighborhood, but they were sorely lacking in the affordable housing component. I mean, somebody at that meeting said that it was an insulting level of commitment to affordable housing, and it was insulting. So I just want to reinforce with everybody, you know, ask your friends and neighbors to send emails to these officials, because that really makes a difference. And then also showing up and saying something. If they have a whole bunch of people who are on the opposition side, it's much harder for them to say, oh, you know, we're going to vote for it. So that's really all I wanted to say. I really want people to understand how important emails are. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
did want to point out that the developers offered originally nothing in affordable range for Braggtown residents, then 10, then 20, and that's out of nearly 900 new homes. I'm sorry, Vanessa, go.
I was just telling Mimi, thank you for what she was saying, because that was one of the ways that I think we were able to get our win too, because we asked, and I'm also asking today that everybody that's on this particular call, if you can continue to get emails out to your neighbors, your friends, the concerns, not just of Braggtown. This is about a Durham thing. Braggtown is getting hit really hard, but you got to look at other areas of Durham that have been changed, and there was no process. Nothing was put in place for those who got hit before we got hit. I have to say this, I thank God that we were able to be ahead of the game. A lot of people were not ahead of the game. They were just caught up in something, and before they know it, big businesses or corporations and apartments were being put up, and they were either having to sell, or you have to face the fact of that you're paying more taxes now. So the emails, the phone calls, signing the petition, I'm trying to think what else. Talking about the different issues that are going on in Durham, as far as the taxes going up, not having enough affordable housing. We even had, you know, some people want bike lanes in their community. We need more sidewalks. In my community, I'm not being funny, but we need sidewalks more than we need bike lanes right now. I'm not saying we don't need bike lanes, but we don't even have sidewalks. We're walking on goat paths where people in wheelchairs or handicapped trying to get to a bus stop, and they're having to walk on the sides of the street. So these are things that should have been put in place when my parents was fighting for this. I'm not the first person that's fought for this. My ancestors fought for the same thing that I'm fighting for. It's just that I'm in a place of, I feel like I'm being forced to have to fight for something that I shouldn't have to fight for. Some things in a city should just automatically happen for every community. Community members should be able to say what they want in their community and not. I was able to be on the participatory budget. To be honest with you, I feel it was very unfair due to the fact when you sit on something and you see where monies are going and it's going into the same communities, and they're putting the money into areas that don't really need a new park or new equipment, and you have other parks and communities that need it more, something's not right with that process. So even with everything that goes on with Durham, it needs to be changed. It needs to be looked at, and community members need to be sitting at every table every table that there's a decision going on, people who live within that community should have a say-so. That's it.
Is it? That's the most important thing, is to have community people at the table. Constance, Celeste, anything else to add? We still have time for discussion, about 8 more minutes.
I just want to say too, Braggtown was never annexed in. We've always been annexed out. So we've never been invested. This is a community that has never been invested into. So you can understand the true dynamics of why so many things are the way they are. If you've never been invested in and money has never come into your community. And yes, we're always looking for people who want to help fund Braggtown or help us to receive better ways of making our community a better community for those that are within the community. We don't want to make our community better for other people to move in and push us out. We want to stay where we're at, but at the same time be able to receive funding to help us improve our communities.
And I just want to piggyback off of what she just said. That's exactly right. I mean, I personally have lived in Durham all of my life, and I am a product of being pushed out of different areas. You know, most of the areas that I've stayed in, they've been gentrified. The highway is going through them. They are no longer there, or, you know, different things like that. Now, I've been in this area, Braggtown, for 33 years, and now I'm feeling a push as far as like my property taxes. I'm retired. I'm feeling the push of my property taxes going sky high. And like I was telling them, you know, I'm at an age now where I should be able to sit down, cross my legs, and enjoy my cup of coffee all day long if I want to. But at the way the city and, you know, the taxes and everything are going up, I may have to get a part-time job just to supplement my income, just to pay my property taxes. Because, you know, I don't want to leave Braggtown. I love Braggtown. You know, I love where I lived before, but like I said, 147 is going through the Hayti area. All of that is gone. You know, my family members have lost their homes to, you know, urban renewal, all of that. So it's painful, and it's real painful. It's more painful when you hear the government officials say, well, people from other areas need somewhere to stay, so we have to provide houses for them. Most of the time when people move from other areas, they can come, and I don't know their income, but it just looks like when you can come in and pay $650,000 for a condo downtown, you know, you have money. So now you want to push the people who have literally made Durham what it is out. So that's why I'm so proud of us here in Braggtown, as far as, you know, at least stepping up and getting the officials to understand we're people too. You know, we don't want to leave Durham because we can't afford it. I mean, why should we even have to think about it? So I just, I'm glad, and like Vanessa said, you know, we want everybody to join in if you can, and just send the emails like Mimi said, you know, and just voice your opinion also in support of not just Braggtown, but Durham as a whole. I mean, you can go down Fairview Street, and they have houses on Fairview Street that probably back in the day people bought for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and now they're like $600,000. Why? You see, why? And that's just like in what was a predominantly Black neighborhood. Now you see, you know, people who can afford those prices purchasing those houses, but moving older people out, you know, and it's just not fair. It's just not fair. It's not fair. That's all.
So we do have a couple of interesting questions. Does any of this discussion connect with the recommendations from our Durham Race Equity Task Force concerning reparations? And I did read that, and I've forgotten exactly what it was proposed, but there's also was a Sunday, Richard Rothstein did an article about reparations related to being able to buy homes at the price today's price of $100,000 because African Americans were not able to buy homes, after World War II when government subsidized those homes. Is anyone part of the race equity team who wants to speak to those recommendations on reparations? And then I have another suggestion from one of our council members who's on this meeting, Charlie Reese, asked that you please also email the city council at council, and it's in the chat, COUNCIL @durhamnc.gov with your messages. Adriana is also on, who reinforces the importance of having support in the state legislature for Durham and other communities where we're trying to listen to residents on inclusionary housing with affordable housing, environmental justice, and rules that support resident engagement. Excellent. And then last thing, I had this question in my mind. When do you think the proposed Braggtown rezoning will be at City Council? Have you been given any information on that?
No,
oh, go ahead, Constance.
No, it's okay. Well, I was just getting ready to say, I actually emailed, the clerk to see when we are scheduled to be on that agenda. Of course, I haven't heard back from him, but if somebody else has more information, go ahead.
I think they usually estimate like within the next 2 months. That's kind of generally what I've heard, but we haven't heard a specific date yet.
So that might be something maybe someone in the city on City Council might be able to find out. I also have an email from Constance Stansel with the City Neighborhood Improvement Services encouraging people to visit our community engagement Facebook page or email communityengagementteam@durhamnc.gov. And remember, they have those neighborhood matching grants. You don't have to match them with money if you've got volunteers. I believe that's also a match. Okay, I think we've got 1 minute left before we need to move to the next item. Any last words? Otherwise, I'm going to.
I was wondering if I could chime in just quickly, Larissa. Just, I think one of the other kind of paradigms that I've heard are just I guess I wanted to push back on something that I've heard a lot, which is that Durham needs all types of housing, and that in some ways the Braggtown community, and thanks to Constance and Vanessa and their leadership, like did their job too well, right? We got 20 units of affordable housing, which is unprecedented, right? We have not heard of a for-profit developer who didn't plan on doing anything around affordable housing actually coming around offering 20 units, offering an additional $100K to the Affordable Housing Fund, offering some funds directly to the community, a lot of things there. But the reality is that that level of commitment doesn't mitigate any of the harms that we've been talking about around displacement. And when you think about the potential effect of this development, it could actually reduce affordable housing and a net total, right? Because if Constance has to move and sell her home because of property taxes, that house is going to get flipped, right? And it's going to now be not affordable anymore. So, we have to think about a holistic picture. We can't just say, well, we need all types of housing, because we've seen over time the increase in housing at the same time has been a decrease in affordable housing. And so it's just I think it's just a false choice that people make. Like, oh, we have to vote for this because we need these 900 new units, because we are then making that choice that only people who make a certain amount of money will get to live in Durham. So I just wanted to add that.
I think that was what was so important about DataWorks' data on displacement of people from lower income neighborhoods that became gentrified, that development without having affordable housing and without supporting longtime homeowners with tax assistance and other programs is not going to result in more affordable housing. It has the opposite effect in a hot market like Durham. And they found that in other hot markets as well. I need to stop this part of our meeting, but we have a big vote on the transit equity plan. So I'm going to turn it back to Becky.
Larissa, before you close, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for inviting us into this space. We thank you for listening to us and hearing our voices. And we hope that y'all will be able to still support us in any way that you can. And that's anyone that's on this call. And we pray that everyone has a blessed day.
Thank you for your
you. And we thank you all for coming. It's been a very interesting discussion. And thank you, Larissa. The first item of our updates is about the property tax assistance proposal. And then we'll need more discussion on the second one. But Jim, could you give us a quick update on what happened with the county on the property tax assistance and where we're going now?
Yes, thank you. And I do want to thank everybody for their efforts to promote the tax assistance grant. We have moved the county to do something, but the grant proposal itself was not expected despite the strong efforts supporting it by Heidi Carter and Lindy Jacobs. The council has chosen instead to go with a proposal from the county staff that will provide some short-term relief, immediate relief, a tax deferral approach, which will require homeowners, very low-income homeowners, to pay up to 4% of their income, and then defer the rest of the tax payment. Just to put that in context, for a two-person household with $20,000 income, that's an $800 tax bill that they will have to pay, whereas our proposal would have given them the grant above 1% of their income. On the other hand, this proposal will essentially cut their tax bill in half. A $140,000 home is a $1,750 tax bill. That 4%, that $20,000 income family would be paying $800. So it looks like we still need to get final approval from the council. We have tried to persuade them to move that to 2% immediate year payment. The commission did not consider that option. The council will be meeting to take action on September 8th at their regular meeting. They'll be discussing it at the work session this week. We expect that the tax bills are still going to go out on the end on 31st of August, which means that it'll take a separate outreach effort to get the information about the tax deferral program. It does provide some immediate help. We're going to need to help promote the idea and help people get access to this program as we look at and keep working on longer term solutions.
Thank you, Jim. John, tell us about the mobility equity campaign, and let me share see if I can share our statement with so everybody can look at it while you're talking. John Talmadge.
Thank you, Becky. So hopefully you all have had a chance to read the Transit Equity Campaign statement and description ahead of time. This is an effort of several partner organizations that have been working together for the last several months. Bike Durham, the Coalition for Affordable Housing and Transit has had some representation, and the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People, People's Alliance, and the Durham Congregations in Action have been working to talk about how to collaborate and ensure that the Durham Transit planning process that's underway right now is going to center the needs of current riders, current transit workers, and low wealth residents of Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities in Durham. But we all want an excellent public transportation system here. The first priority needs to be making it an excellent system for those constituencies. And so right now we're trying to get to the point where these organizations that have been working together on this are making official commitments to be working together on this campaign. through the public planning process. And the question is put before this group about whether to support the transit equity campaign. You can see down toward the bottom that the organizing strategy is both working at an organization level to talk about the issues and build support, but importantly, it's also to engage directly with the most affected people and populations. And so Bike Durham and volunteers have been at Durham Station, not only passing out face coverings, but inviting riders to join the effort. We've got about 92 people who have given us contact information because they're interested, and about 50 some odd of them have expressed their priorities for things that they'd like to see done. On the Bike Durham website, where we'll keep information about the campaign as it builds, you can now see stories told by Women with the Champions for Change program that is out of Families Moving Forward with support from NIS. And I'm putting that in the chat box. So let me stop there and ask if there are questions before there's a sense of the group here.
Questions, anybody? Brianna, I need help. I can't see the chat right now. If we've got questions, and we're going to have to vote and whip somebody. we're going to have to figure out how to count votes, I guess.
Yeah, I can't see the chat either because of the screen share, and I'm recording, so I
get
can't
rid of the
minimize
screen
and share
share.
the screen.
Yeah.
But one thing is, if everyone wanted to put a vote, oh, I can see now. Well, I can't change to grid though, so if you all can help me count, you can use your reaction buttons, go in the chat, or physically like raise your hands or give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and we'll be scrolling through to count.
So Becky, this is Wib. Let me just say that I moved that the coalition endorse the mission statement of the Transit Equity Campaign and work to be supportive of it as it moves forward. And as Brianna was just saying, if everybody looks down at the bottom below the little pictures of people or names of people, the bottom of your screen, you'll see a list of some things there. You may have to tap on it, but then reactions is one of them. And that's a place that you can indicate a positive reaction or negative reaction. That's one way to vote. Or you can go hold up your hand up or a thumb up or something like that if you're in favor. And so Becky, when you call for those in favor, that's a way to indicate it, and give it a minute or two, and then those opposed. So we can try and have a vote that way, see how that works.
Okay, do I hear a second to that motion?
Wait, I just remembered. I think I can do a poll.
Okay.
I can. Sorry, y'all. Give me just a minute.
Yep, that's a special feature that, thank you, Brianna, for getting that. But
okay,
yeah, Becky, you asked if
vote.
a second to that motion?
Well, Brianna just did that, didn't she? Let's count that as a second.
Well.
Oh, well.
I second the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
And while Brianna's putting the poll up, if I could just put a thanks out to Eric Landfried, who has been volunteering a lot of time to help organize this. Betsy and Wib, Jim, Spencer Bradford with DCIA, who are all on this call, have been active participants, and I want to recognize them. Hopefully I'm not missing others who are on the call.
And I think Brianna got everybody a vote, so if people take a moment on that ballot.
I'm so glad I remembered that feature. My apologies for complicating it first.
No, that's okay. But if you can't tell, this is our first big virtual vote at a meeting that we've had. So if it seems like the first time, that's true. But Brianna, thank you for helping make this possible.
Yeah, thank you all for your patience. We've got about half the people who have voted, so steadily rising. And I'll end the poll when I see that everyone's voted.
Maybe we could go ahead with the final update about the zoning amendments while we're voting. Could we do that?
Yes.
Dick? Unmute yourself.
The Jim Anthony amendments that have a variety of parts to them, including increasing incentives for affordable housing, has been winding its way along for coming up on a year, I think, and was scheduled to have action by the Planning Commission on August 11th. I wasn't able to be in to view that meeting, if anyone else was, but they had held the matter at Planning Commission for many months and had a subcommittee that had met several times and were making firm recommendations, and the staff was generally in agreement with their recommendations. So I was anticipating the Planning Commission would make a recommendation and pass it on. If that indeed happened, it likely would go to public hearing at City Council in October.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody who went to that meeting hear whether they addressed that and passed it or advised the council to look at it favorably? I guess not. How about the report on the vote, Brianna?
We have 75% of people voted, 40 yeses out of 55 people. So that's a yes. Several people messaged me that they're abstaining from the vote. So next time we have a vote, I'll have a yes, no, abstain option. So thank you all for sharing in that. There were no no's.
Okay. Thank you. It may seem like we were railroading that through, but we will have opportunity, and I hope that if anybody has questions about it that you didn't get to discuss at this meeting and in this format, just send them to RM Winders, who send you the messages, and let us know what you're thinking about it if you have any reservations about this. But we think that this is an important way, and John Talmadge and Eric and the Bike Durham and other transportation people are doing some important work to advocate for equity in transit, the way this organization has been doing more with affordable housing than transit since the demise of the light rail anyway. But we have it's an important work, and we hope that all of you will understand it and get on board with it, and if you have any reservations, let us know about it so that we can discuss it. Sorry, we can't really discuss very well in this format.
Becky, Becky.
And we're late. I know we're running late.
No, let me just add that Eric has put up contact information in the chat for anybody that has questions or wants more information about that. That would be a good place to follow up as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Jim told us about the city council meeting on the tax assistance proposal on September the 8th is not on your agenda. Only our the organization's meetings are on there, and they are then for our next program in September is going to be about homeless issues. If Terry or if Brianna or Terry would like to say something about that in 30 seconds, that's the topic for our September meeting.
Yeah, Terry probably has more information at this point, but we are going to have someone from the North Carolina State Coalition of Homelessness and Donna Carrington from the Community Empowerment Fund discuss some of what has been going on with funding, especially emergency funding, and the experiences of people experiencing homelessness during COVID-19. So they're going to give us some updates, and there will be a presentation. So yeah, 30 seconds.
Okay. Thank you. So, so the meeting will now be adjourned, and we're only 5 or 6 minutes over time. But I appreciate you're all participating, and look forward to next time. Bye-bye.